Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Ash Owen, now actually Ash Couchman, and I cannot wait to find moments of joy with you today. The next few weeks are going to be looking a little bit different when it comes to our episodes. Only one episode will be dropping each week to unpack some things about marriage, dating life, things that we're looking forward to, and today's episode is with the one and only Tobias. We are officially married, but not officially married because we're recording this ahead of time. But when this lands, we will be married.
Yeah, we will.
I wrote out my new Instagram handle that I'm going to have last night. And I feel like we both looked at it and we were like, weird. We're like, that's cool, but so weird.
So weird.
Do you find it weird or are you just excited?
Just excited.
You don't find it weird that my name's going to be different?
Nah.
We always say, because you've got 6 sisters?
Yeah.
And then 2 brothers.
Correct. So
there's not as many Couchman women.
There isn't.
What, 1 Couchman woman?
There's 1 sister
2
that's...
if we count your stepmom.
Yeah.
So there's not many of us.
Not many.
But it's exciting.
It's very exciting.
I'm loving it. We're having a little bit of a chill episode today where we're just kind of talking about our dating life.
Yeah.
Things that we've learnt, things that we expected, things that we didn't expect, and I suppose just have a bit of a chit chat about, I guess our experience with dating and engagement and all those things.
Yeah.
So thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
On your day off. Let's just start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
COVID lockdowns. Just before COVID.
Just before COVID.
I think we briefly discussed in the episodes last week. You moved to Melbourne to plan church.
Yeah.
We met on the very first Sunday that I ever came to our church, which was a couple weeks before COVID lockdowns. And then COVID lockdowns hit.
Yep.
We became really good friends with a couple of our other friends, like our friend Keely.
Yeah.
And I feel like we kind of weren't super interested in each other to begin with.
No.
Not for any reason, just... I don't know. We're just friends for a good few years.
Yeah.
I think I confused you a little bit few times. What happened
I probably
there?
did the same.
Well, yeah, I think we both probably started to be a bit interested in each other, but we didn't communicate it well.
Yeah.
So then we probably went a little bit longer not actually dating before. And then it kind of was coming to this point where I was like, I definitely think he likes me. I definitely think we're going to date. And then he went to Queensland and I was like, when he comes back from Queensland, he's going to confess his love for me. But that's probably not exactly how it happened just yet anyway.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so I ended up going to Queensland and I had some friends up there that ended up setting me up on a date.
How dare they?
How dare they? But hey, nothing was wrong with these dates, but at the end of it, I just, I sat and I went, it was cool, it was fun, but it's not Ash. That was my wrestle.
Aw, so you did love me.
Oh, yeah.
So basically that all happened. You came back.
Yeah.
You asked me out.
I did.
And then we went on a first date.
Yeah.
We dated for how long? Probably 3 months.
Yeah.
Before we officially became boyfriend and girlfriend. I think we just wanted to
probably 2.
We just wanted to figure out if we were more than friends.
Yeah.
We wanted to suss out if it would be a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
But we went to this really cute cafe in the city.
Yeah.
We had brunch. I love brunch.
Yeah.
And we hung out. And I said to you the other day, and honestly, I'm so emotional right now. I feel like I'll cry thinking about it. But I said to you the other day, I'm already going to cry. We haven't even had the wedding yet. And so I want to get my tears out now. But I literally said to you the other day, I was like, the moment I decided to go on that first date and said yes, I knew that I was going to marry you.
Yeah.
And going on that date, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it.
This is it. Yeah.
And so I think was it the same for you or where was your head at?
Yeah, I'd say not word for word kind of thing, but for me, I was in the season of obviously coming out of a season of singleness for about 4 years. And so I always told myself the next person I date, I didn't want to date for the fun of it. And of course there's seasons and stuff where it's good to go on dates and it's good to, get out there and stuff. But I just went on that journey of me personally going, I don't want to date for the fun of it.
Yeah.
The next person I date, I would like to see myself marrying that day. And so, so with you, it was the moment I committed to, dating and going out with you, it was almost in my own mind, it was the commitment I already made.
Yeah.
And so obviously we went on the journey to make sure that was the right decision and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it was I don't want to date for the fun of it. I want to date for the long haul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. And I just feel like it's been the best time ever. Like when I
Definitely.
look back on like our last 2 years of dating, like we've just had such a fun time.
Yeah.
Like I literally am too emotional to record this podcast right now. I literally am just like the amount of fun, the amount of like we're just so fun and silly, and I think that I don't want to cry. I think that I can get really what's the word? Like I can get a bit down in the dumps sometimes.
Right.
And I think that you've just been so good at like in these last 2 years, like you're just helping me not get in that spot.
Yeah.
And like you're so full of joy and you're so positive and like full of life. You haven't let me be sad.
Yeah.
And it's like the best thing ever to have in a partner because
Well, you want someone that brings out the best in you. Yeah.
and so I think that as someone that, you know, maybe can let the seasons of life rock them a little bit, like having someone like you has just like changed my world, because obviously not that I only rely on you, like I try and rely on the Lord, obviously.
Yeah. Well, you succeed.
Yes. Because then I think that you've just shown me how much fun life can be, and that it doesn't have to always be serious. I
Yeah.
think that's it. Like I can be serious a lot of the time.
Right.
And so I think you've just shown me you don't have to be serious all the time. Like you can have fun.
You
Like
can
you can
have
be
fun.
silly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything other than enjoy the life that God's given us.
Exactly.
Okay, so now that I'm crying already, we dated, all those fun things, and
Yeah.
then talk all of our listeners through the proposal, your
Yeah.
planning. People have probably heard a little bit of the story, but you go.
Yeah, cool. So in like a super quick nutshell, essentially, I was thinking about like what's the best way to do it. And the thing with Ash is I think she knew it was coming. And so for me, obviously. And so for me, it was like, well, I want to do it in a way that she doesn't see it coming when she knows it's coming, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to have to catch her off guard. And for us, I'm like, the moment we do something bougie at home, or like, you know, here in Melbourne, I was like, if I take her to a fancy restaurant or if we go on a picnic and she's dressed nice, she's going to know straight away. So I was like, I've got to catch her off guard. And so like, I'd probably almost say 6 months prior to getting engaged, I was having a chat with one of our friends and we were planning a girls' trip for the girls to go down to Hobart. And so Ash was very much, over the next few months whilst this girls' trip was getting planned, she was very much, oh no, babe, I don't want to go, you know, it's so expensive. It was around Christmas time. So she's like, you know, we want to spend time with our family. And she basically Ash every excuse. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to propose to you, flipping go on this trip. And
I just remember there was one point where you were like, you just go. You were like, stop making up reasons to not go.
Like, you need a
just
girls'
go.
trip.
You
You've
need
never
a
done it.
girls' trip.
Just go.
And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, I'm happy to just not go.
I think I played it cool though. I don't think she...
Yeah, you did a good job.
So anyway, so Ash ended up going down to Hobart with a couple of her girlfriends, and I planned on the very last day to surprise her up Mount Wellington in Tasmania in Hobart. And so yeah, I flew into Tasmania that morning. I caught an Uber from the airport to the top of the mountain. I ended up bringing another one of our friend Keely. I ended up bringing her with me, so she's there for Ash as well. And literally caught an Uber from the airport to the mountain. I proposed. We went out for lunch, and then we flew home.
Yeah, that was pretty much the day.
And then,
but it was such a special day. Like,
and then we went and saw our family, and we told them, and it was super special.
Yeah, it was so nice to.
And then the hard thing is we had to keep it a secret for a week because the following weekend we flew to Queensland to surprise my family.
I forgot about that.
So we had to keep it on the DL for like 7 days.
It was so perfect. And I think I had just had the best time on this trip. Now, I'm not going to lie. I was a little suspicious that it might have happened. I definitely wondered. I was like, I'm going to be livid if he's spent all this money and flown to Tasmania, but also kind of cool. So I was a little bit suspicious.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
Not until the very last day.
Not until the very last day.
Yeah.
I wasn't suspicious during it, but I think I was... The moment that it kind of all started to happen, like the moment that one of our friends was like, oh, like we're going to go have like breakfast at the top of this mountain, I was like, huh?
Right.
As soon as that happened, I was like...
But still, I caught her off guard, everyone. It's fun.
No, it was so perfect. And I just love that we have this beautiful story of you like surprising me. I'll never forget how freezing cold I was.
It was very cold up that mountain.
But I just feel like when I think about all these moments, I'm just so grateful to God for the fact that He, I don't know, has just blessed us so abundantly, like with each other, with our friends, with the opportunities of all these things. And yeah, it just fills me with so much joy when I think about it.
Yeah, so true.
I love it. Now, if we flick back to when we first started dating, like obviously, you know, when you date someone, you know that there's going to be levels of, I don't want to use the word baggage, but like levels of like, you know, things that you're going to deal with, ways that you deal with things differently. It's just a part of life.
Exactly.
Was there anything that like, any challenges? Was there anything that you didn't expect to kind of face during our like early dating sort of time? Yeah. That you kind of had to overcome or figure out?
Yeah, I think for me, early days is I obviously, because we were good friends prior. Yeah. I knew that you did struggle with anxiety a bit. Yeah. I didn't know to the extent, but you know, whilst we were friends, there's obviously stuff you tell each other. There's stuff, you know, we just don't see all the stuff whilst you're just friends. But for me, getting into dating and, you know, spending a lot more time with each other, etc. Yeah, for me, it was just going that journey of going alongside you with your anxiety journey. And, you know, for me, it was just super hard because I'm a very anxious-less person.
Anxiety, yeah, no anxiety around here.
And so I'm like, I don't think I've ever been anxious before, and I don't, you know, I'm very blessed in that way. But so in my brain just generally can't comprehend, especially at the beginning, just going like, you know, I'm a very logical thinker and I'm a big problem solver and that kind of thing. So my brain just does the opposite of what Ash was doing in those moments of being anxious. And so in my mind, I would just go, this is the solution, just do it. But then I obviously had to go on that journey of, you know, sometimes it's not best for me to talk, it's just best for me to listen. Sometimes, you know, most of the time I can't fix what is going on. So.
And I think you kind of struggle with that a little bit, hey? Like you've kind of gone, the thing that's the hardest about dealing with a partner who's struggling with that, it's the fact that you can't really do anything.
And like my personality type is I'm a helper. So it's like, for me, it's just like to feel useless in those moments because naturally I want to help, but not knowing, and then going on the journey of I actually can't help. And
like you can support and
I can support and I can listen, I can help direct you to Jesus, I can do all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, like I physically can't help. So I just had to go on that journey of when you were, when you were just going through a bit of anxiety to go, hey, I may not be able to help you, but and for me it was more the understanding of going and going on that journey. And
I guess kind of going, just because I don't understand it, like doesn't mean that it's not there.
Exactly.
What would you say, like if we have got someone listening today and like maybe they're more anxious and their husband isn't, like what would you say to kind of like encourage them around how to understand?
Yeah, I think I'd say, because at the end of the day, if you're a logical thinker like me, and if you're very, you know, you don't struggle with anxiety, but your partner does, you'll never actually truly understand. And I had to go through that realization of I will never truly understand how Ash is feeling. And so then I just had to go in that and almost be a way of, and you'll guide it. And sometimes you physically have to ask your partner, you feel like to say, hey, in this moment, are you looking for advice? Are you looking for someone to listen to? Or do you need me to help you in this season? Like you just sometimes you just need to say it, because sometimes when, you know, with you, Ash, you're going through this, and sometimes all you need is someone to listen to. Sometimes if it was a situation that was super overwhelming you need me to physically help you do a task or whatever it may be. But to just go on that and just be honest with them and just be like, hey, in this moment, what do you need from me? Yeah. Rather than assuming things, rather than jumping the gun and, you know, if you're trying to fix a problem and all they need is for you to listen, it's just going to make the situation worse.
Totally. I think something that has really helped us in our dating sort of stage, and I guess something that we wanted to highlight, is there is such an importance of community and like mentorship and like getting a church family around you. Like a great example of that is our pastors. We kind of joke that we're very similar to them, but the opposite. Like the wife is more like you and the husband is more like me. And and we've like had moments where we've kind of sat down with them and been like, hey, how have you guys navigated tricky, anxious moments where you don't understand each other?
Exactly.
But like you can still support each other. And I think having other people to bounce off, having other people to pray for you, you know, I just think
other people go on these journeys as well. We often think that we're alone in these situations, but we never are.
And so I think like something that we found so valuable during this season of dating is like having community, having people around us, you know, having people, yes, to celebrate us as a couple, but also to go, hey, like this is what I'm going through personally. I think particularly for me, struggling with anxiety a little bit more and all these things, I learned quite quickly, like, I think when we first started dating, and I think it's a problem for so many young women, is you start dating and like your partner becomes your everything, right?
Right.
And you almost like forget God for a season. Well, not forget God, but like you go from this place of like, I tend to find anyway, reliance on God.
Yeah.
And then once you get a partner, you're like, oh my gosh, they're doing so much to take away that stress, to take away those things.
Yeah.
And so I had to do a big work of being like, how can I make sure that I still keep up healthy female relationships that aren't, you know, like that are going to encourage me and help me and strengthen me? And then how am I going to continue to foster my relationship with God so that I'm not solely relying on you? Because the reality is, we've already learned this, you know, and we aren't even married yet, like when we're recording this, is that like, as much as your partner will help fulfill you in a sense, they will never entirely fulfill you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, never ever can I expect that you will solve every single one of my problems. I need to be able to consistently take that to God.
Exactly.
And if I ever put that expectation on you, it will only, like, I will only be disappointed, not because you're not amazing, but because you're not God.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think we've kind of had to already learn, like, we're going to disappoint each other.
Yeah.
We're going to upset each other.
Yeah.
But we need to learn that like our walk with God is the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think having good mentors, having good community around us has been so important for that. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I definitely just ditto everything you said. I think it's so important to just do life and journey with others, not just for the bad and the hard things, but the good things as well, is to have, you know, couples surrounded by you to, you know, share the wins and share, you know, generally enjoy life with. Like, it's dangerous to isolate yourself alone, and then it's also dangerous to isolate yourself in a relationship as well. Like, you want to surround yourself with people to do life with.
So good. Now, I kind of touched on it before when I started to cry, but is there something that like you learnt about me, and I guess I'll share what I learnt about you, that you think has like strengthened either our relationship or just like you personally? I was kind of saying before, you know, you've helped me to be a lot more fun, a little bit less serious all the time. I actually also have like written down, like, you've made me a more generous person. Right. I think that I definitely thought I was generous, and then I met you and I was like, I am not generous at all.
You've mentioned that on a podcast before. I've listened to it. Yeah. And
and what's really funny is like, obviously I've been preparing to like write my vows in the lead up to the wedding, and I won't share everything with you, but like something that I read in a note that I wrote like back in like 2018, I wrote a note. I haven't even told you
probably
this.
Haven't even told me this.
That it was like the peak of me trying to figure out who I was, trying to kind of surrender my life to Jesus again. And like one of the really obscure things that I wrote on my list of things that I wanted in a husband was someone who is generous.
Right.
And I feel like that's the most random thing. Like, it's not like you often think about that as like a quality for someone that you marry.
Right.
But like literally on my list was, I want to marry someone who is generous.
Yeah.
And you have like that's the like one of the main things I feel like you've taught me is generosity.
Yeah.
And isn't that just crazy the way God works? Like, I forgot about it. And it was only when I was prepping my vows the other day that I was like, oh my gosh, like God has fulfilled all these things in you, and it's just wild. What about you, babe?
Yeah, so for me, I think there's many things you've taught me, but one of the main things is you've given me a new perspective on empathy. Not that I wasn't an empathetic person, not that I didn't care about other people and stuff, but I think just growing up in the atmosphere and the situations that happened when growing up, I came in to be a real independent person. Did things on my own, you know, would put up walls quite easily, and just did life myself kind of thing. But then since dating and hanging out with each other and, you know, doing life together, just learning how empathetic you are to others, and that rubbing off on me to go, not that I didn't care about people, but just a new understanding of other people around us are so important. And you've helped me to slow down in moments. We all get triggered by people. We all get, you know, that kind of thing.
People disappoint us,
you know. But you've really taught me to slow down in those moments, to actually, you know, think about what they're going through, or just having more empathy towards them. When in the past, you know, not that I wouldn't have any empathy, but I would just, you know, I'd disregard things pretty quick. But now actually you've taught me to be a more caring person towards others around me. And I think that's so important you want people to build you up. You want people to, especially in a partner, I want someone that will help me care for others, not one that will, pull me away from others and make me triggered other people. No, you want someone that'll go, hey, let's care for other people. Let's, so that's good. One thing I love about you.
What is something that you have learnt about like love and relationships and commitment over our dating and engagement period?
Yeah, I'd say if I could summarize it into one, I would just say sacrifice. I think, we talk about love, and I think commitment is a very good word, almost a synonym of sacrifice. That's what love is. That's what relationships are about. That's what a marriage is about, is that it's the, my life is no longer just my life. I'm not the only one that looks after me anymore. Like, it's, loving someone and dating someone, marrying someone, being engaged, there is such a large element of sacrifice. And so just to go, it's not about me anymore. Like, I have someone else to think about now. Yeah.
I think that it's really, interestingly enough, I feel like our relationship has like really pushed me closer to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I think that you go like, the verse that says like, take up your cross daily. Like it really is that thing of like, each and every day it's a choice. Like the way you need to choose to follow Jesus, the way you need to choose to honor God, it's like it's the same in our relationship. And I think we're not unaware that we're in early days of life together, and there'll be people listening who have been married for decades and are probably giggling at this going, obviously guys. But I think that even if you are listening, sometimes I feel like it's a good reminder. Someone mentioned to us in all the wedding planning, might have been one of my cousins, she was like, weddings are amazing because they remind people who are already married of the commitment that they made however many years ago. Like I think she was basically just saying like it's such a beautiful thing because when you attend a wedding or you see a wedding, you go, that's the love, that's the, that's the commitment that we made, that I made. And I hope that this episode, although it's a lot of us just chatting, we hope that it's a reminder, whether you are engaged, whether you're getting married, whether you've been married for decades, that like love and like marriage is the coolest thing. And like I think we get to be in that phase of being so excited. And I think we've had so many people who are like, marriage is hard, and we get that marriage is hard at times, 100%. But we've equally had so many people just be like, guys, it is the best decision you will ever make. And I think that it's hopefully a reminder for people today, like marriage is the best decision. It's so cool. It's so incredible that we get to come under this covenant with God and like all these things, but I love it so much. Now, just before we wrap up, if there is one piece of advice you could give to someone preparing for marriage, maybe from like your point of view, what would you say?
I'd say that marriage is such a big deal. Like obviously there's lots of practical things like the stress of a wedding and finding a house, and there's all that practical things, but there's also the spiritual weight of a wedding. And for me, for being the husband in this situation, to go, as I was sharing before, it's like it's not about me anymore. And so, but there's a spiritual aspect to that. Like now I'm the spiritual leader in our relationship officially. Like once we after when you listen to this podcast, we would have already been married, but in our ceremony at that moment, we make those vows not only to each other, to our family, but to God, and just to go, hey, there's a spiritual weight to that. And so with that, the preparation of that and knowing that that's coming kind of thing, it would just go the importance of prayer. And, we also go that there's importance of prayer to every area of life and how important praying is and to spending time with Jesus. But I'd say the importance of prayer even in a relationship. And so one thing I'm super grateful for, that not even our engagement period, but I couldn't even tell you when we did start. But one decision we made, which I actually, which we made together, was to, as much as we can, is to pray with each other every night. And it's different situations. I travel a little bit for work. Sometimes it doesn't happen every night, but most nights we'll just call each other before bed. And sometimes it's a 30-second prayer. Sometimes it's a 3 or 4 minute prayer. Who knows what it is?
Sometimes it's longer. But to just go in at the end of every day, and not even just engagement life, but married life. I've heard of married couples that do this every night, that no matter what their day's been like, that of a night time before they go to bed, they pray with each other every night. And so for us, it was just, and for me, and for us together, just the importance of every day, no matter what our days look like, whether it's been super fun
And, you know, we pray and we give thanks to God every day. But even in those days, you know, the last few weeks, wedding's been stressful. You know, there's been more stress, there's been more anxiety, there's been, you know, things going on. But it's just to come together every single day and to just go, you know, Lord, thank you for what you have done. Thank you, you've got our back. And just committing
worshiping God
ourselves to Jesus every day, and just to thank him, but to also help him with our, you know, ask him for help, because he is our helper.
I would probably just say very similarly, marriage is a big deal. It's awesome. But like, I found it super emotional. Like, I think growing up in the same house my whole life, like moving out, leaving my family, like it's a big deal emotionally. And so I think I would just jump off the back of what you said and be like, you need to give it to God. Like, I'm sure that there are people listening who are way less emotional than me. We're probably just like, awesome, this is chill. But I know for me, it actually has been like a really emotionally vulnerable season of life, of like trusting God with it all, of stepping out of like this feeling of, I guess, like childhood, and like, you know, we kind of were mentioning like you felt like you stepped out of that when you moved out of home when you were younger. And so I feel like for me, my biggest piece of advice is, if you are someone like me who's emotional, who maybe has been with your family your whole life, like take the time, one, to grieve it, because it can be a season of being like, wow, like I'm so excited for the future, but I'm also it's closing a door on what has been my whole life. And so I think creating space with God for that, prayer, worship, creating space to go like, God, this is hard. Like, this is the best thing. Thank you for blessing me, but it's hard emotionally sometimes. Exactly. And so I think the biggest piece of advice I could give, from what I've experienced anyway, would be like, take the time to give it to God. Take the time to be honest about how you feel. Don't pretend that you're just doing good and like it's not scary if that's not how you feel. Exactly. And I think it works both ways as well. Like, we can obviously ask God for these things, and you know, he's gracious, and he is gracious, and he'll do those things for us. But it also, at the same time, we're called to be wise stewards, and it's not just a God, do this for me and take it away, because, you know, by the grace of God, he will. But at the same time, he's called us to be good stewards and for us to do practical things. So for us, one super quick example is we've realized that for Ash, you know, that she lived at home her whole life. She's lived in the same house her whole entire life. She's been in the same room her whole entire life. So we realized that when it comes to marriage and to, you know, moving out and stuff, we sat down and went, hey, it's probably not the best idea for us to get married, go on a honeymoon, come back, and then that's when you've moved out of home. Like, we're just like, that would be a very emotional on you, and it'll take a toll on you kind of thing. So practically we were like, well, maybe we should so Ash moved out. You moved out of your parents' place, what was it? About 3 months ago. And so the last 3 months Ash has been living on her own. And so obviously it's been a journey on itself, because it's something new for her. But I agree. I think that... But it's healthy, I think. Yeah, because I didn't want that for you either. I didn't want us to like get married, move in together, and then me have an existential crisis being like, oh my gosh, I'm not living at home anymore. And so I think all those things, it's not to scare anyone or anything. It's more just to be like, be aware of it. Like, be honest with your emotions. Each person's different. Totally. And so, because we realized that, and, you know, as Ash mentioned, you know, I moved out of home when I was 18. And so, like, I've had the last 8 years on my own, so it's almost like I personally, so every single person's different. Totally. And so you just got to, as much as you pray to God, as much as you say, you know, God, help us, we just got to remember as well, we actually also have to partner with God, and we have to, you know, put practical things in place and be wise stewards of our time, resources, and what we do. I think that through all of this, the key thing that like we found is like, God has to be the center of your relationship. Because we're going to fail each other. We're going to disappoint each other. Like, we need to have the security of God. We need to know that we are staying close to God, that we are near to him. And I think, you know, like we said, like prayer, having people around us, you know, really giving God everything and surrendering it to him each and every single day. Like we said, taking up the cross, I think that, you know, it's the best thing ever. Like, I'm so excited. Obviously, it's like post-wedding now. It's a bit confusing, but I'm so excited for what God will do with our marriage and our relationship as we just continue to step deeper and deeper into all that God has for us. And I'm excited to take on the challenge as well. Like, I'm excited about it. And we kind of were saying this the other day. We're just like excited because we're like, come what may.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care. We're just all in to just see God glorified through our relationship. So,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
I hope that you got so much out of today's episode. I know it's sounding a little bit different. I know we're not unpacking the Word of God each and every day, but I hope that it encourages you around ways that you can keep Jesus at the center of your relationship, of your life. And look, we definitely are at the beginning of our journey. We don't know it all. So what we would love is if you head over to the Everyday Joy Facebook page. Why don't you go ahead and share something that you have learned over the years and a way that you have been able to keep God at the center of your relationship. I can't wait to continue to chat with you next week in another single episode. Until then, I pray you're able to find moments of joy.